So we're opening at the beginning of the parasha. Excuse me for asking. I don't mind if I teach 2 Wochen, but what happened? What's the story with the yeshiva?
This is the yeshiva.
All right. So I didn't get any answer. Okay. Im Behukosai telecho. If you will go in my chokim, ves mitzvosai tishmaru, vasisam oisom, and my mitzvahs you will guard them and you will do them. V'nosati gishmeichem v'itom, v'nosna ha'oret yevulo, v'eit hasoda yiten pirioi. If you will go in my chokim l'tui and guard my mitzvahs and do them, then I'll give you a rains in that time, and the earth, meaning Eretz Israel, nosna ha'oret yevulo, the earth will give its produce, ve'etz hasoda yiten pirioi, and the tree of the field will give its fruit. So, if you were to take a look at that word, Behukosai, what would be your first reaction when you see the word Behukosai? I see you. You're being very Balavatis today. I don't know who's, I just hear in a very distant way noises, so I don't know whether, I know they're coming from phones, but I don't know from where. Okay, so what would be your first reaction when you see Im Behukosai telecho? What would you think, and what would you say about that?
Talking about chukim. Talking about chukim.
Chukim? Yeah, but what's a chok?
A mitzvah.
Huh?
A mitzvah.
How do you do that, my child? What's a chok?
Mitzvah without reason.
I see in Thailand they hold themselves to be VIPs. Yeah?
Yeah. Right, that's talking about my friend.
So the word Behukosai, in parashas, the word chok means it's one on. We have 3 types of mitzvahs. Here we have chokim, we have eidos or eidus, and mishpatim. Chokim are the mitzvahs that have no time or reason. They just have to keep them because Hashem said to keep them. Eidus are mitzvahs that we can see some sort of connection with them, but we probably would not have dreamt ourselves to do all of those things. For example, all the mitzvahs which have got to do with the going out of Egypt, all the mitzvahs like connected with Pesach, for example, and other things that we say there's Zecher L'Yetzias Mitzrayim, they're called Eidus. In other words, they have a reason which we can understand, a remembering of the Yetzias Mitzrayim and everything connected with it, but not necessarily would we ourselves have dreamt, to make up all those detailed mitzvahs. particularly with the Korban Pesach and things like that. There are many detailed mitzvahs. Mishpatim are those sorts of mitzvahs that even had we been left to ourselves, we probably would have, as you know, a human society produced those mitzvahs. And in effect, human society did produce mitzvahs similar to them. And that's what we call don't murder, don't steal, you know, things of that nature, which obviously are essential for preservation of human society. Then we probably would have come up with mitzvahs of that sort. Nonetheless, they're given to us by Hashem. Well, that's got another significance to it. The fact that Hashem gave us those things in the form of mitzvahs, but I'm not going into that right now. That's another thing. So in Cain, the word chok means something that's, as it were, beyond reasoning, and as it were, a deep commitment to carrying out an act that you don't really know why and what you're doing. You're only doing it because Hashem told you. Mm-hmm. And that's the word chok. That's what it means in Hebrew. So in that case, ask yourself the question that here in this pasuk we have the word chok, and then we have the word mitzvahs. What mitzvahs is a general term for all mitzvahs. So if he says, if you go in my chukim, and then you will keep my mitzvahs, then kach v'kach, what does he mean by the word chukim? It must have some specific and powerful meaning of its own, that it's made the first word in the pasuk, and it's made, the first word in the whole parsha, and the whole parsha is Behukosai. And it's well known from the Rebbe that the names of the parashas are not just by way of chance, that the first word of the parsha, that's the way we name the whole parsha, but the names of the parsha have a significance which refers to the whole parsha, and as a general message for the whole, as it were, period in which you find yourself. And according to the Shiur Klali, which is buried in Feria, that whenever you read something in the Torah, and this is what the Alter Rebbe taught us also, in that particular week that you read it, then that's got a tremendous and necessary basic significance to the whole of that week. So what would you say about this week?
What's this week? It's beyond reason. It's above understanding.
It's what?
Above understanding.
Public?
It's above reason.
It's above reason.
Yeah.
Very good. This week is above reason. So we're all going healthily crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. You ever heard of a gesunter Meshuggah? In Yiddish, a healthy crazy man.
Yeah.
If you're a Chabadnik, you're supposed to be a gesunter Meshuggah.
Gotcha.
You see? Okay, that's very good. That's very good. But there's something more that I'm sort of driving at here. We're getting close to a certain something. We're getting close to Chag HaShavuot. It's only a few days away. And Chag HaShavuot is what?
The giving of the Torah.
But it happens that it is. That's what the Alter Rebbe tells us in Shulchan. Chag HaShavuot is a separate Chag that was given by Sinai. It just so happens that the day that Hashem gave Matan Torah, gave the giving of the Torah, happens to come out through amazing combinations. It happens to come out also on Chag HaShavuot. Yeah.
I don't get it.
I see everybody's knitting their forehead. But the Shiur is not about that, so I'm not going into it. But just the actual Chag HaShavuot didn't have to be the Chag of Matan Torah. It just comes out that way with divine providence. That's the way it is. Anyway, it's Matan Torah. So the Shavuot is the second last parsha in most years before we get to Shavuot. The Gemara Masechta Megillah tells us that the reading of the Torah in parashas Behukosai just before Shavuos is like a preparation for Rosh Hashanah. So you might say, well, this guy's had one or two extra. He started talking about Matan Torah, and now he says Rosh Hashanah. You know. Can anybody come up with an idea in his mind what might be similar between Shavuos and Rosh Hashanah? Can anybody come up in his mind what might be similar?
On Rosh Hashanah, everything that occurs during that day is the light for the whole year.
Very nice.
So where Shavuos is the giving of the Torah, it's the Torah for the whole year.
Very good for you, Levi.
Maybe.
You've had a couple of extra in a good way.
Maybe.
Excellent. In other words, Rosh Hashanah is a newness, like the whole situation of a unit in the Jewish time, which is a year.
Mm-hmm.
The Medrash tells us that the Eibishter, one day by the Eibishter is 1,000 years. There's no days by the Eibishter, but as it were. One unit, one small infinitesimal unit by Hashem is 1,000 years by us. And so it's divided, because Hashem made the world, that way it's divided in such a way that you've got every some amount of infinitesimal moments in time. You have a new building of the year, and it's like a new start and a complete new commitment and the whole thing. But that's Rosh Hashanah. The Indian of Shavuos is exactly the same thing. When you get to everything connected with Torah, limud ha-Torah, commitment to Torah, knowledge that Torah is our whole life, everything of that nature begins all from the new, just like Rosh Hashanah begins a whole new year. That's Shavuos. So does anybody remember, just a week or two before Rosh Hashanah, we read a special part in the Torah that everybody sort of, the middle of everyone suddenly became sick.
Kisavai.
Curses.
Kisavai.
Very good. You're informed today, Levi. In Parsha Kisavai, well, that's okay. In Parsha Kisavai, right near the end, we read the Teichacham. Does anybody know what the Teichacham means? Like I don't want to call them cursing because that's not a good word, but a whole series of retribution. Mm-hmm. Let's call it that. There's 98 of them over there.
Wow.
Before Shavuos, we read a much shorter one. But we read in this week's parsha a long retribution that's only half the size of the one in Parsha Kisavai. Only half the size. So the Gemara says, why do we read such a document like that before Rosh Hashanah? So the Gemara says, Liyashir es halavavis, to straighten out the hearts, so people will do tshuva. They'll say, if we don't keep the Torah, look what's awaiting us, etc., etc., and that's before Rosh Hashanah. So the Gemara says that Shavuos is also a Rosh Hashanah. Shavuos is also Rosh Hashanah. That's the expression of the Gemara. So therefore we have to read a long, as it were, teichach to purify and straighten out the hearts in order to receive the Torah. Is a sign from that, Cain, that this idea of Behukosai, Teilechu, and Nosati Gishmeichem, I will give you reins in time, and everything will be fine. This is a utopian world. Look at all these brachas that follow in this parsha. The Ramban says that these are, they've never been such brachas. The Ramban says that they're only going to be when Mashiach will come. Now we don't find that in Rashi. Rashi doesn't make any commitment in his Pirush as to exactly when these brachas will be, are, etc. But everybody agrees that they're amazing brachas. Rashi also says that they're shaloi kederech hateva. In other words, if you'll be Behukosai teilechu, then you'll have all these amazing brachas. And that would be apparent in the teachings of the Alter Rebbe. And that's the story of the Mittler Rebbe that I referred to. But everybody knows the story. I mean, tell me, don't know the story.
About when he gets...
But the Mittler Rebbe was a Teichacha. You don't know the story?
yeah.
Oh, he knows so well.
Yeah, I know it.
Yeah, you've heard the story.
Yeah, when
Yeah, once the Alter Rebbe was away from Lubavitch, was away from not Lubavitch. The Alter Rebbe was never in Lubavitch, from Liozna. I'm sorry. And when I say ordinary person, some honorable person, but not the Alter Rebbe. He read the term. The Mittler Rebbe heard it, and he was young at that time, and the Mittler Rebbe fell ill. He heard the Teichacha, he heard the whole series, 98 not very positive things over there. He fell ill. And he was so ill that the doctor didn't want to let him fast on Yom Kippur. That means it took quite a few weeks for him to get it out of his system. So he said to the Mittler Rebbe, listen, you hear that every year. What happens, So the Mittler Rebbe said, when my father reads it in the Torah, because the Alter Rebbe was always the Behukosai when he was there, he said, I hear only blessings. I've never heard that before. He said, when I heard that, I heard all these, as it were, negative in Yonim, then he couldn't take it and he collapsed. Ad kan Hasipa. Well, for now we see we've got to go through that in order to get to this newness. However, if you keep all these in Yonim here, and the world will be the way it's promised, if you do that, then we won't need the whole Teichacha, or, even better, all those things written in the Teichacha will be openly broken. That's why hidden, the way the Alter Rebbe read them, they're broken. Hidden in them, hidden inside the Alter Rebbe saw only, and he read and he produced only broken. And therefore in the Chutzi Torah, there's a mimer where one of the curses is typed out in a very amazing way that it's all good. In the famous work of the Alter Rebbe, the Chutzi Torah. Okay, so Lefizah, it comes out that we're dealing with a very holistic preparation, parsha, before we get to Matan Torah. So this word, Behukosai, comes along Rashi. Rashi says, what does it mean, Behukosai? Yeah, if it means mitzvahs of a special sort, then it's written the word mitzvahs immediately after. That's mitzvah isai, which would include all mitzvahs. Not dividing the mitzvahs into any type of that. Yes, so the mitzvahs has already been said. So what does Rashi say?
Laboriously.
Oh, labors.
Laborious.
Yeah. So Rashi says, you have to learn, that means you have to learn Torah, amelim v'Torah. You have to be laboriously, that's a very strange word, I never thought of that. Yeah, laboriously, a bit of a mouthful, you're studying Torah. And in Yiddish, it means horovin. But horovin means to work tremendously hard. You have to be learning Torah in a struggle-like way. Which means that Rashi is telling that the word chok, that means something beyond reasoning, beyond limitation, something tremendously high and beyond us. We've got to learn Torah in the way of a chok. You've got to be devoted to Torah in a struggling way, which means that you've made a bond with Torah in your life where all you've got to do is learn Torah. And anything else doesn't really make a great deal of sense to you, and you're devoted to the Indian of learning Torah in a way that it demands all of your time, all of your sweat, all of your effort. Everything is into amelim b'Torah, l'maylame the ragil, beyond ordinary commitment. That's how you're supposed to learn Torah. Rashi says that's what it means. Im Behukosai teilecho. So now it'll be understood. How come it's written Behukosai teilecho? Levi, what does teilecho mean?
Walk.
To walk?
Telehu,
No.
to walk in the ways.
Teilecho means to go.
Ah.
If you will go in my friend. So you can go without walking, you can run, you can jump. The main thing is you make progress. And if I'm, let's say, for example, let's take the word go. I go from here up to Rehov Plain Yerushalayim or something, let's say, yeah? So does that mean that any part of me is left here?
No.
Because if any part of me was left here, I didn't go to Rehov Yerushalayim.
Right.
I'm part here and part over there. I don't recommend that anybody do that. But, yeah, in other words, to go means that you're no longer here, you're in another place. And that's what we call in Siddur Ein Arok. Ein Arok means no basis of comparison or link. Yeah. You need to get a bit of Behukosai, you're a little bit sort of, need to stir him up. You know. It's a matter of, if I go, it means that I'm incomparably better than what I was before. Meaning, in Ruchnias, I'm no longer here, I'm over there. That's what going means. So you can hear these two words, yeah, they tend to imply like almost a contradiction. If I say you're going to be devoted to Torah like a chok is like something, as it were, dry or uninspiring. And then he says Teilecho, which means you go and you progress, and you're moving every day or every moment or every period. You're moving incomparably further into another world altogether. And that would intend to imply the idea of going, adequate. So we have to say that by learning Torah, Amelim b'Torah, then you come to a level which leads to going. And that's something essential in the whole Yiddishkeit. You want to have a world which will provide you. You want to live in a Jewish world that will bear all the blessings that Hashem meant for the Jewish people, and to avoid the Teichocha and to turn it into blessings, then you've got to be in this even of Behukosai, Choch in Torah, Meilim b'Torah, and you've got to move. You've got to progress and live without limitation. You move from one place to the other, adequate, incomparably. So if you think I'm just, selling a bill of goods, I'm not. Because comes along Rashi at the beginning of the Teichocha, of the heavy part, that's written, if you won't, if you will, sort of disregard my Behukosai, and you will disregard my mitzvahs and so on and so forth. So Rashi says, if you will, not look to my, not pay careful attention to my Behukosai, Rashi says that will bring the Motishmo Li. Over there, Rashi says, "Liyos ameilim b'Torah." If you won't listen to what I've said, and you won't be ameilim b'Torah, then all the inyanim, Rashi repeats it about 3 times, that to avoid all the curses, you've got to be ameilim b'Torah. So we see that Rashi sees it as a very central point, that if to Behukosai all the good things. If a male in Torah is struggling in the learning Torah, all the good things. If not struggling in the inner of Torah, then Rahmanin Islam Hashem should guard us all the bad things. So that seems to be the central point. So once again, I ask us the Shaila, how can you be regarding the learning of Torah as a chok, something beyond reasoning altogether, and as, like a way giving of yourself away in a almost like a a driveway. You don't really know what you're involving yourself in. You just know you got to get into Torah and learn it in a way of beyond limitation. Well, that will take you into going in such a way that you'll get gishmeichem, be'itom, and the whole. So this is what you might call Behukosai. It's well known that throughout all the generations, the great, what you might call thinkers of man, especially by Yidden, have had a big question that bothered them, and that is what determines what, or what rules what, or how do you come to know what from what? So, what am I talking about? The question is, what is the principal factor, the Gashmias or the Ruchnias? In other words, first of all, you have, and you can appreciate and you know the Gashmi, and from that, you begin to build certain pictures beneged to the Ruchni. And based on your experience in that realm, from that you build up a picture of the spiritual worlds, and eventually you arrive to some picture of divinity, of the Eibishter. And that seems to be hinted at almost in a verse in Eoiv, which is brought a lot in Siddur, and that is a verse that says, Mipsori echzeh elokah, that from my flesh I can see the Eibishter. So Siddur means that by examining all the ways the body works, you come to appreciate Elokus, and you get some sort of a picture of what divinity is all about. Or do I say no? That the main thing is to know, understand, and appreciate, and to learn all about the Indian of Ruchnian, and to know that and Elokus, and divinity and spirituality, they are the whole Ikar. And they fix the physical world is just a resultant and a coming out of the spiritual world. Don't look at the physical world at all, because it's only just a certain resultant type of development of the spiritual and divine world. In other words, I have to know all about the spiritual world, and that will help me understand and know what the physical world is. In other words, that if I want to really appreciate the whole universe and the way it functions, I have to learn about divinity, and then I'll understand what the physical world is, not the other way around. So, here it's written, if you be a Meilim b'Torah, according to Rashi, then Yisati Gishmeichem be'itom, and it's one on the Baal Shem Tov. That means I'll give you all rains in that time. But rain is very important. I mean, it's brought down in the Gemara Masechta Tainis and in other places, in Madrashim, of our sages, many places, that rain is a tremendously key thing. Until the Gemara says in Tainis, Godel Yom HaGishomim Ki Yom Tchias HaMeizim. The day of the coming of rain, if you need rain, it's like the day of the standing up of the dead. It's like Yom Tchias HaMeizim. It's a tremendous key thing in have rain. However, the Baal Shem Tov typed the word Gishmeichem, and he said Gishmeichem means Gashmias. That if you will be devoted to Torah in the way we just said, V'nosati Gishmeichem, Hashem promises that each person will have the Gashmias that he needs. In other words, that you may have to do some minor thing in Gashmias to look after yourself, but it'll all come Be'ikar, the whole of what you need physically, Gashmius, will come from the fact that it'll be linked somehow or another with the fact that you'll be Behukosai Telecha. If you'll be devoted to Torah in that way of a Meilim, then you'll have everything you need. If that's the case, then you'll be able to go ahead and do all you're supposed to do. Yeah, you'll be able to be a
Maven.
shliach.
That's even better.
Yeah. Or you'll be able to be some form of a kosher member of the human community, and you'll be able to spread the message of divinity throughout the world. Well, I see nobody's particularly excited about that. Oh, he is. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I would have thought somebody would be excited about that.
No.
So let's examine then, let's try and find out what's the inyan of Behukosai, what's the inyan of horribing, learning Torah by Amal, Amelim, but Torah, that killer seems to be the secret of ideality and eventually bringing you everything you need and eventually giving you your whole mission, as it were, in life. Or, chas v'sholem, if you don't get involved in Torah that way, Rashi says over there twice or three times in his language that that's the beginning of all the negative things, chas v'sholem. So what is the story here of Im Behukosai Telech? So I want to tell you now two stories, and they will indicate to you this. I hopefully pay attention. They will indicate to you the secret of this whole thing. He sort of gave me a look, and this guy just tells stories. Stories. When I was your age, somebody said to me, he's telling me a story. I was there on the spot. I was noting down, on my computer, the stories. So the first story is a personal one.
Ooh.
And then I'm going to tell you more, Last night, the reason I didn't make the davening this morning was I was just out. I'm still out. That I had a very busy schedule on Tuesday, and I went to a Shiur Klali for my son. So who made the Shiur Klali? A guy that he lives down in Me'or Chaim, actually. You wouldn't know him, you fellas. And he's a Sfadi. His name is Amram Cohen.
I know him.
You know him?
Yeah.
And he plays a guitar and he sings. He's got like a small little sort of quartet or whatever they call them, I don't know, group of people that they sing and play with him. He's an amazing guy. And he knows my son, he made the Shiur Klali. He's got a place called Oil Avroma. Have you ever been there? It's this little amazing place over in the woman place. It's very mystical and everything. You go inside and he plays in there. Anyway, that's where we had the Shiur Klali. How do I know Amram? How do I know him?
Yeah, how?
So what happened was that I was, about 40 years ago, I was in Melbourne, Australia. I was already in Eretz Yisrael for a long time, but I went back to Melbourne, Australia, collecting money for the yeshiva in Kwachabad. Not an easy task. I don't recommend anybody undertake it. Ellen Kane, you have simply no bread or whatever, but it's a difficult task. Gathering money for a Moisa is not an easy thing. So I'm busy every day. I have commitments. I got to go to different businesses and ask these guys for money and so on. So on a certain day in Elul, a guy comes up to me in the shul, a young fellow, and he said, "Listen, today is already this and this day in Elul." And he said, he was learning in a big university together with a few other guys. And he said that we want to make today a Jewish students, gathering, and we want somebody to talk about Elul, about preparations for the Yom HaRoim, and we decided that you're the one. And we'd like to invite you, to come and speak at this thing. I said, look, I'm terribly sorry. I'd really like to help, but I'm here on a shlichut. I got things to do. I can't really do that. And so he said, oh yes, you must. And the kid said he went up and then he went and got a couple of his friends, and they came over and they begged me. And so in the end, I decided I would take up a few hours from my very heavy task, and I would borrow a car by somebody. And I would go out to this university and I would speak out there. Okay. So I'm thinking to myself that this is going to be You know, it's a big university. There's a lot of Jewish students there. Probably it's a big Indian. It's a big mitzvah and a shlichus. So I get out there until I find a building. There's that many buildings in the university. Until I find a place, and I trade my coat and I walked all over the place. I finally get to the room, and there's a notice up that there's a lecture today about the coming of the high holidays and the whole thing. Mm-hmm. I looked through the door, and I could see 4 people were sitting inside a big sort of a thing, you know, were sitting. 3 of them females. 3 women, or I don't even know, but you know what they were doing. Probably they were students or something. And there was one male, and he was very carefully sitting himself, like in the other corner. And he was sort of sitting there, you know. He was obviously a bit sort of down, you know. So I look in and I was just dumbfounded. 4 people. They told me it's going to be a huge meeting of Jewish. So I think to myself, listen, I'm in the middle of a very important task.
How many chairs were set up?
Huh?
How many chairs were set up in the auditorium?
Oh, how many chairs?
Yeah.
Oh, a huge bunch. Huge bunch of chairs were there. And there was a place to stand with like a small microphone and the whole thing. So it couldn't be that these people were coming late, because I arrived late because it took me a heck to find the place. So I think to myself, so I think I'll just make a quick getaway, you know, there's nobody here anyway, but what I need to, you know, whatever the whole thing, I did my best, you know. These guys don't know how to organize a meeting. They probably just woke up on the same day. You can't invite people on the same day. Mm-hmm. So I'm just about, and all of a sudden, a thought occurs to my mind, if this is what the Rebbe would really want, that I should do. You know, I came specially, this is the Rebbe's shlichus, to talk to people like this. Would the Rebbe want that I just pack up and go away and not say a word to anybody? What do you guys think?
Speak.
Huh?
Obviously say something. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's what I decided to do. I thought I'm going to close my eyes, as it were, put my head down, walk in, I'm going to make a speech. That's what the Rebbe would want. So I walk in, and here's this guy sitting in the corner, and he looks obviously, you know, a Yid, but he looked to me like a Sephardi, you know, a Sephardi fellow. He was sitting there. I thought to me, he doesn't look all that Australian, you know, he doesn't look to me to be Australian born. But anyway, I just sort of picked it up in my glance, you know. I started off, and I started, you know, brought a sikha from the Rebbe, and I started, you know. In the meantime, I noticed he sort of gradually, you know, he's gradually lighting up, this fellow. And the more I said, you know, the more he sort of was looking at me. He seemed to be sort of, you know, unexpectedly building up an enthusiastic reaction, you know. I obviously was not talking on deaf ears to him. The women I can't really figure, you know, it's not clear to me exactly how they were reacting, but at least people in Australia are very well behaved. They listened, you know, they kept quiet over front. They sat and either they made themselves to look as if they were listening, or they were. I can't really be sure. Oh, but this guy, you know, he said, "Do you really say that?" And he's looking at me. Every sort of few sentences, he sort of lit up more. I was a bit taken aback by it, you know. So I thought maybe he'd had one or two, you know. And so as I reached the end, you know, he's really, and all of a sudden he puts up his hand, and he said, in a rather sort of Sephardic type English, he says to me, "Is it possible to ask a question?" I said, "Yes." So he asked me a bull question in what I'd said. You're very good bull. So I said, well, at least I got one person who was listening to me. Yeah. So I started telling him, he said, "Well, that's very good." That leads me to another question. And he said, "Yes." So I ended up spending at least another half an hour beyond my time, answering this guy's questions. So the next thing is I sort of announced that I'm terribly sorry, but I have to go. So the women get up and clear off, they walked away. And the next thing is he says to me, Rav, he said, oh, Tazovati, don't leave me, he said. Don't leave me. He said, we've got to talk more. I said, listen, I got to go, So he said, well, I'll walk with you. So he comes with me the whole way down all these stairs and lifts and everything. He's hucking me with these questions, And I'm saying, yeah, but kach. And I'm sort of trying to work out the answers. He comes down and says, where is your car? I'll come with you in the car. I could not shake myself off from him. And he was asking all these questions. And this is Amram Cohen. And he was out in Australia, like many of these people from Israel in those days. They thought that the dollars were, like on the street.
Wow.
They thought he could get rich, He went out to make money. He didn't have any shaykhs to any religion or Yiddishkeit or anything. However, he began to realize that, he's made a bit of a mistake. Aleph, he didn't find dollars laying on the street. Maybe he found once, somebody dropped something. And twice, and secondly he saw that, it's not Gan Eden Bakla, this place. And thirdly he doesn't really speak the language. And fourthly he can't really make a heck of a connection with any of these people, because he's from an old house of Moroccan Yidden, and Australians are very different sort of to Moroccan Jews. So he just, he reached a point where he was fed up, and he wasn't sure whether he would just go back and be poor in Israel like he was before, and just, put up with it and say, that's it. And then I said, so all of a sudden something turned on in his neshama. For the rest of the time I was in Melbourne, wherever I went, he went with me. Yeah. I got into a taxi, he got into a taxi.
Wow.
It was amazing.
But speaking to you the whole time.
He would find out, when am I starting tomorrow morning, where am I davening, and all that. And he would come, and he would wait until I finished davening immediately. And in the end, he would say, I just want to be with you, Rabbi. I'll keep quiet. I just want to be with you. And it was just unbelievable. And he made this tremendous change in his life. And I went to Sydney from Melbourne on my way back to Eretz Yisrael. And he didn't follow me to Sydney.
Oh, wow.
You know where he went?
To Eretz Yisrael.
Huh?
Let's hear your yeshiva.
Even better than that.
770.
He went to the
No
Rebbe.
way.
He went to the Rebbe. And he was 6 months by the Rebbe. He was 6 months by the Rebbe. And he came back to Eretz Yisrael, and he changed completely his whole life, and he became, I don't know if you know him, he became Amram Cohen. He's quite a personality up here in South. Apart from the fact that he's he's an amazing guy. So, what happened over here is, Behukosai Teilechem. I went out there just for Kabbalah. And it's absolute acceptance of the Yoke Heaven. I see the place, nobody there. My natural feeling was, let's get out of here quick, Now, Kabbalah soil, I took on myself. The Rebbe said, that's it, got to do it. Got to just open my mouth and look at what happened. And you should realize that he had friends. He was part of a whole group of these guys. And if you ever come to my Seder night, well, I don't know if that's going to happen so quick, but if you ever come to my Seder night, when we come to the Kos Shel Eliyahu Hanovi, I put a very special kos on the table. It's a beautiful glass kos. It's shaped and it's got Eliyahu Hanovi, a picture of Eliyahu Hanovi on the, in the glass. It's very beautiful. I put that on the table. With that, we pour Kos Shel Eliyahu Hanovi. Where did I get that? I wouldn't have bought a thing like that. Where did I get it? I went to Amram's friends. He had a whole group of friends, and I spent a whole night from when I finished collecting in the evening about 10 o'clock until 4 o'clock in the morning, 6 hours straight, talking with him and a group of his friends. And they were so taken by the whole thing that they wanted to do something for me. So I said, no, It's on fine. The next day, where I was staying, somebody knocks on the door and leaves a package. And he said, "This is for Rabbi Gafne." They said, "He's not here right now." It doesn't matter. I come home and there's this beautiful package standing there with a beautiful letter inside it from all these guys, you know. That's Shiur Klali. Anyway, a person became Amram Kohen. From Behukosai, I gave myself away with Kabbalah, with Amelim. Yeah, I worked very, very hard. I gave myself away, and look what happened. Something started moving, and it moved in this amazing direction of the change of a person's life. I asked someone last night, between the different amazing nigunim that he was in, there was other people with him. Also, there's a Chabad young boy that he wears a black hat and he plays the violin. Do you know who he is? Yeah, he's the son of one of Anat.
I think he's a sofer. Is he the sofer too?
He's Ginger Beard. And he got hold of Amram somehow. He's met up with Amram, and he's joined up with Amram, and he plays with yeah. So between all the different things, I said to Amram, "How are you doing?" He said, "I have 21 grandchildren so far," which means that Amram's been married a long time. He's brought up children, married them, and he's already got 21 grandchildren. And that's just for the time being. Yeah? So we see this is quite an amazing story. And that was what came up in my mind last night when I was at the Shiur. So that's one story that I want to tell you. The next story I want to tell is something a little sort of more deeper and sort of, it's not a personal story. But I used to give a shiur when I was first married. I used to give a shiur in Gemara once a week in a shul in Ramat Gan. It's actually called Ramat Yitzchak. And there's a very famous personality, Chabad of Meir Gruzman. His father was the one who founded the shul. And he was called Motel Gruzman, or Motel Gruzman. He was an amazing figure on his own right. He founded this shul, in a Chabad sort of shul, way in the middle of a big fry area called Ramat Gan. And so the person who used to come there, and he was from Lubavitch. He was from the Lubavitch Chassidim, and he was unfortunately I can't remember now at this moment his family name, but he was from quite a well-known Chabad family. One day I'm sitting with him after the shiur, after we daven married, and he said, "I'm going to tell you a story." And he heard the story from his uncle, and his uncle heard it from the person that happened with. That in the later years of the Rebbe Rashab's leadership, it was very, very difficult because the communist revolution had already been, you know that. Very, very difficult times, and there was confusion and like the small wars between militiot, how do you call it, these like private armies, you know, fighting one against the other, trying to beat the communists, and the communists were trying to beat everybody, and it was very confusing and difficult time. There was a Yid that came into Yechidas with the Rebbe Rashab, and he had a most terrible, what he considered was the most terrible situation in his life. He lost all his business in the, you know, what he called the revolution, and he had a daughter who was married at her age, and he didn't have any money to marry her off, apart from the fact that he didn't really have any ordered parnasa. So he gets into Yechidas with the Rebbe Rashab, and he wants to tell the Rebbe all his tzoros, all his problems, and ask the Rebbe for a blessing and for a way out of the tzoros. So he gets into Yechidas, and he begins telling the Rebbe all these problems. All of a sudden the Rebbe interrupts what he's saying, the Rebbe Rashab, and the Rebbe Rashab said, he said, what a good thing it is, you know, when you learn a Plat Gemara, when you learn a piece of the Gemara, you know. So he couldn't sort of figure, you know, he's telling the Rebbe all, he's in the middle of it telling him all the problems, you know, and how he should earn and have a bracha, that he should be able to marry off his daughter and the whole thing. All of a sudden the Rebbe mentions what a good thing and what a wonderful thing it is to learn a Blat Gemara. And he's a bit so he thought maybe the Rebbe didn't understand, but in a cup, clearly what he was saying, so he starts telling more about his problems, more and more. So the Rebbe Rashab said, if you learn a piece of the Gemara with the Mephoshim, and you discuss it with somebody, he said that really is a light, how do you call it, illuminating experience. Lifting, in Yiddish. So, he's getting more and more puzzled that he's talking about one thing, the Rebbe seems to be, talking on another wavelength altogether. So in the end he starts over again, and all of a sudden the Rebbe comes up with another amazing, praiseworthy statement of what it is to learn, and particularly learn Gemara with Meforshim. He couldn't figure it. So in the end, the Rebbe made a sign, you could tell from the way the Rebbe closed the pages or something, that was like the end of the Yechidas. That was it. So he realized that he couldn't take the Rebbe's time anymore, but he felt he hadn't really said to the Rebbe what he wanted to, but he very, Derek Hertz, he backed out and he left the Yechidah. So when you got out of Yechidas, there were all sorts of, but the Rebbe was also the same. There were also curious people standing around waiting for people to come out of Yechidas. Know what happened, how was it? They would take people and dance with them and all this. So he comes out of the Yechidas and he bangs into a guy that he used to learn in the yeshiva in Tonfei Tmima. He learned with this fellow. This fellow seen him. He says, he came out of Yechidah, and he starts dancing with him, this whole Siddish towns, and then when they finished, he said to him, I see you're going to have to say a few prayers.
Yeah.
So he said, he'd be dancing all around with him, and then but he says, by the way, what happened, what big revelations did you have in Yechidah? He said, wait a minute, take it easy. He said, I don't know what happened, but he said, the Rebbe and me didn't talk on the same wavelength. I said, I couldn't figure. I tried to explain to the Rebbe, and he just, so all of a sudden the friend says to him, repeat that again. So he repeated to him again. He said, something? He said, he said, you're verstockte Kopf. He said, you're a blocked head. So I said, what's wrong with my head? He said, you have a blocked head. He said, something? This Hashgacha Proti, we used to be chavrusas in the yeshiva. He said, we're going to become chavrusas all over again. We have to make a time to learn Gemara. That's what the Rebbe Rashab means, that you have to learn Gemara. I said, me learn Gemara? He said, I'm crazy. I run around the whole day and night, and I have no menucha, I got no panosa, I don't have, a great deal what to eat, and my daughter needs married advice. I can sit and learn Gemara. So he said, that's exactly what you got to do. Exactly what you have to do. The kids, they made a kviyut. And they started learning a difficult masechta in Shas called Ksubas. You ever learn Ksubas? It's a difficult Gemara. That's we got to learn somehow. Kitzur, he starts learning Gemara. A few days later, he meets an old friend of his on the street, and it was such a bad time with all the confusion that there was in the civic situation, that the only way he could make business was because the Bolsheviks, they'd taken away all the business. The only way he could make business was what they call black market. In Yiddish, it's called Schwarz. And it's, of course, very illegal, but so the guy says to him, listen, I've just had a deal with somebody. If you want to come in with me, we'll split the profits. So he said, okay. So he goes in with this guy, and they make, a reasonable amount of money. And they split it. If a kid said, a day or two further, he meets up with another guy. And he suggests him another business, and the kids, after a while, he's making money, albeit dangerously, but he's making money. And in the end, he ends up with quite a sum of money. He finds a shidduch for his daughter with the whole mitzvah, and he gets the yechidus with the Rebbe. Anybody who was holding before a chasna had a right with the makutin from the other side to have a yechidus with the Rebbe Rashab, and he would give each one a blessing, for the chuppah and for the chasna and everything. So he gets into yechidus with his friend. I'm sorry, not with his friend, with his makutan. He's in-law to be. And he gets into yechidus, and the Rebbe gives him a very nice bracha and everything. And then as they're leaving, the Rebbe says to him, if you wouldn't mind just remaining another minute, I have something to say to you. So the Mechutin moves out altogether, and he stays in. And the Rebbe says, I have to ask you to, as it were, to forgive me that when you were in your last meeting with me, meaning your last yechidus, I I didn't actually seem to be answering what you were looking for. So the guy said, yeah, it was a bit, but he said, meantime, things have got a lot better. So the Rebbe said that's because it's written a pasuk in Tehillim, it's written a pasuk which says, Neir l'ragli devarecha v'er l'nesivosi. Your word is a light to my feet, and it's a illumination to my path. So the Rebbe said, what does it mean, Neir l'ragli devarecha, a light to my feet? I mean, the feet are just the bottom of a person, they're not really the person. And normally, if you have a neir, then that lights up for your eyes and for your head, and it shows you where you need to go. So why is it written neir l'ragli? So the Rebbe said, you forget about your head and the rest of you. He said, you put your head into learning Torah. And you put your head into learning Torah in a way of struggling. Very good. You put your head in that. He said, your feet will automatically carry you where you need to go. Come on, you guys. No. Your feet will automatically carry you where you need to go. And that's why the pasuk says, Neir l'ragli devarecha, that the Torah is like a light to my feet. I don't even know what I'm doing, but my feet take me in the right direction. My feet, they just go in the right way. All of a sudden I run into whatever I need. So what happened to you was that you met Pliny, and Pliny met Pliny, and Pliny introduced you to Pliny, and you end up making money. Why? Because your feet were already under the light of your study of Torah, and your mailing of Torah, and they just took you they took you where you need to go. So when I heard that, I fell off the chair. But you guys are all very contained, very well oilers with Torah Kedim. But the Rebbe told him that the Torah is a light to your feet. And you might think, well, that's a very ambitious sort of a statement. It's written in the Medrash in this week's parasha. It's written like that right at the beginning. Im Behukosai teilecho. It's written that Omer David HaMelech, oh, Sadi Shalom Aleichem, David HaMelech. Yeah, David HaMelech said a pasuk, Choshavti drochai, V'oshiva raglai elei dosecha. It's in the big long 119. The big long thing. It's got 8 times every letter in the old base in the Tehillim, chapter 119. In Ches, one of the psukim is Choshavti drochai, V'oshiva raglai elei dosecha. Now David HaMelech was a king. So David HaMelech had a lot to do on the statesman level, or how to call it, on the arbitrational, or whatever you call it, level. So, David HaMelech says like this, Choshavti drochai. I thought and I worked out all I'm going to do for the day. And Amati Latzmi, written in the Medrash, Eilech lebeis vad ploini. I'm going to go to this and this government office, and there's going to be a meeting there. The Achazeh Eilech lemochim ploini. And after that, I'm going to go to another place. And after that, I'll stop in a certain place. The ma hoyo, what happened? Raglai ayu moilichi soisi lebeis hamedrash. My feet took me, no matter where I wanted to go, I ended up, my feet took me into the Beis HaMedrash. As they say. And David HaMelech said, instead of doing all the things I wanted to do, and meet all these people and go to all these meetings and everything, what happened was my feet took me to the Beis HaMedrash. I come along and unfortunately, I said, what do you mean your feet took you? I said, what expression is that? And it's also written, Oshiva Raglai, I moved my feet back in the direction of Edo Sefer, which is the Beis HaMedrash. So from there's a door in the middle, what do you mean your feet? Yeah, that says the Meforshim over there, exactly what the Rebbe told this guy. That if you're really devoted to Torah, and you know that that's the Ika in life, and the whole guiding life, the line of life, is if you work hard in Torah, and you give yourself away unconditionally to Torah, then your feet take you without your knowing in the right direction. Why is it written in pain that David HaMelech, Ashiva, I moved my feet in that direction? Because the Eibusher has a special Rahmanas on you, that even though your feet were moved by your neshama, you didn't move your own feet, it was the neshama that took you to the Beis HaMedrash. As Hashem reckons it for you as if you did it. Or you didn't really do it, your neshama did it. Well, I suppose your neshama is you in a way, but upon him, it happened automatically without you really intending doing it. So some of them force him out the obvious kasha. What's the obvious kasha? David HaMelech was the king. And he needed to go to the Beis Vad. He needed to go to this and this place. He needed to meet these and these people to run the kingdom, no? Mm-hmm. But if he just walked automatically to the Beis HaMedrash, then what was with the whole kingdom? How do I get you guys? Yeah, what's with the whole kingdom? So was it a terrorist? What's the answer? I don't know. The answer is that since he was sitting in the Beis HaMedrash and he was learning Torah, the Omer, the Eivishter looked after the Omer. That's what they say. That the Eivishter ran and everything was good. And so he did go for half an hour to the Beis HaMedrash. He did meet up with certain plenty for half an hour, but only for half an hour. He didn't spend the whole day at it. When he got up in the morning, it appeared to him that he had to spend the whole day. But he really spent the whole day, the big hunk of the day in the Beis HaMedrash. He just chase after me all the time. So that is the secret of the whole Indian of a male in Torah. If you struggle and you're devoted to Torah, in a way of struggling, then everything happens kilo, almost as it were, automatically. Hashem looks after you, and Hashem takes you. That's what the parashas Nafsati Gishmeichem Be'itom. I will give you, and the Baal Shem Tov says, Gishmeichem means your Gashmiyat. You need Gashmiyat. You have to have a bit of Gashmiyat. I mean, you don't have to be Rothschild or something. You don't have to have the Hilton Hotel backyard or something. Yeah, but you need. So whatever you need, Hashem will give you. Hashem will look after you, and He will give you. You just have to do. You have to take a bit of an action, and Hashem will look after you. So that means, in a slightly deeper level, what that means is that by Hevel, excuse me, Ameilim b'Torah, struggling in the learning of Torah, you come to what's called ayin. You know, ayin was aleph, yud, nun. What does ayin mean? Ayin means the nothing. But the word ayin doesn't mean absolute nothing. Because absolute nothing, does anybody know what the word is? Efes. Yofi. The word efes is absolute nothing. Ayin means there's something, but it's negated.
What's the difference?
There is something there, but it's bottle. Bottle altogether. That's called ayin. When you are male in material, you become ayin. You're not really there anymore. You're bottled b'matzias. So who's going to pick you up? You're just laying your piece of iron. No. Your piece of iron laying around on the table, or chas v'sholem like that. Your piece of iron. Who's going to pick you up?
The feet. The feet?
Fin?
Hashem.
Oh, you're in good form today. Who's going to pick you up? Hashem. So who likes irons? Hashem. Hashem likes iron. He's a mirror. Hashem sees you laying around, and you're just an iron. You've been working very, very hard. He said, oh, iron, that's just for me. Why? How the whole world come about? Yesh me iron. And what does that iron mean? It means the Eivishter. I call the Eivishter iron akasha. But iron is the Eivishter. The Eivishter, which iron is a brotherhood. It's a fit. So Hashem sees that you're an iron. Oh. What does He do? The Eivishter picks up and puts you in his pocket. Hashem puts it in his pocket. And then what happens? Nosati gishmeichem v'itom. Whatever needs to happen. And whatever is good for you will happen. And then all the other bracha. And then you go to the Sefer Torah and you hear the Teichocha, and you won't hear anything negative. You hear all the bracha. Because why? Because you're iron. If you're a big Metzias, then you say, well, you know, if you're big, then you hear a sharp thing, that's a bit, unsettling. Now, remember, the same thing, the Rebbe has brought the whole world to iron. The world is not what it used to be, I promise you guys. The world is not. The world is going crazy. All the goyim are all talking about Moshiach. And all. There's a lot of goyim around, but a big percentage. Huge. It's growing. People are all crazy for something better. They want another world. They want something different. The whole world is different. I don't want to go into it because it's late. You guys are always saying, when is He going to stop? Any minute now. So the Rebbe has brought the world to ayin. And so from an ayin, what do you get? A new yesh. You get a new one. Because the old one's lost. And from that we're going to get a new Elam Chota. So we brought the whole world to ayin. So what could be better? Kabbalah Satorah. Together with Moshiach. Can you think of anything better than that? No. Try hard. You can't think of anything better than that. We should all be in Makabal and the Torah, all together with the Rebbe, in Yerushalayim, here at Kodesh, and the base of Mikdash, Ashlisi, He'll come down on the Shemayim, and all of him a couple of the Torah. Simcha Ube,
Two levav.
Pneumius.
Okay. What?
Oh man, Kenny, you wrote it.
Shabbat.